After a decade of excellent performance, it's finally time to let the legendary NCAA Football 14 rest, as we've got a new game for the first time in many years, and with it being the first game in so long, there were a lot of really good rebuild options to choose from, and I had a really tough time figuring out which one I liked best. Ultimately, after putting in a lot of research myself, I just brought it up to my subscribers to try and help ultimately push me towards the right decision. And with the help of the Fiend Faithful, I have finally gotten to a point where I am ready to put on the hat and commit to my EA College Football 25 rebuild team. The Vanderbilt football program began play in the year 1901. While that certainly doesn't technically make them one of the oldest programs in the nation, they are certainly nowhere close to one of the newer ones. Vanderbilt enjoyed some early success, including winning an SEC championship back in 1923, but if you fast forward 100 years from that time, believe it or not, that is still the last time the Commodores won the SEC. It's been an entire century since this team has been on top, and to make matters worse, the best conference in football is just getting better with the addition of Texas and Oklahoma to this conference. And it's not even like Vanderbilt has come close to winning the conference. Let's take this century, the 21st century, for example. Vanderbilt has only had a winning record in the conference once since 2000. And that was back in 2013, before EA decided to stop making college football games. That was also the last year that they were ranked, and one of only 6 times they have made it to a bowl game in this century, the last of which was in 2018, where a loss in the Texas Bowl left them at 6-7 on the year overall, which is their best record over the last 10 years. Now, it's not all doom and gloom for Vanderbilt here. They are bringing in the number 41 ranked recruiting class, as well as the 37th ranked transfer class, which is headlined by quarterback Diego Pavia, who passed for just under 3,000 yards, as well as rushed for just under 1,000 and had over 30 touchdowns, becoming the Conference USA Offensive Player of the Year for New Mexico State last year. So perhaps the hope for a brighter future is already starting to be set, but make no mistake, there's a long way to go for this team. Head coach Clark Lee has been with the school for 3 seasons now, going 2-10 in 2 of them, including last season. Last year's team ranked in the 60s for passing yards per game, which isn't anywhere near the worst in the country, but if you consider that was the only major category for yards and points where they were ranked inside the top 100, many believe it's time to find someone new to lead this program, and that is where I come in. Taking over a team that is clearly the worst team in what is clearly the best conference is exactly the type of rebuild I have always leaned to on this channel, giving this team a much needed overhaul while having to face the best teams in the country on a weekly basis gives us a tough road ahead, and I am very excited to begin. With the game coming out in a couple of days, expect me to get this rebuild started right away, likely starting with a roster overview and perhaps a first look at a recruiting class coming up on, should be released Tuesday. I know there was a lot of love for Kennesaw State from the poll that I released on the channel a few days ago before accidentally deleting it when I was trying to edit it. But I ultimately like the challenge of starting right away in the SEC so that I can get those rivalries established in year 1 rather than eventually, the goal being eventually get to the SEC and those rivalries don't start until, maybe a year 5 or a year 6 of the rebuild. Ultimately, the voting was very close between Vanderbilt and Kennesaw State. I used the poll to basically narrow it down to those 2 and decided to go with Vanderbilt. I hope you're as excited as I am to see what we can do with this Vanderbilt rebuild. Game comes out Tuesday, and I'll see you then. Anchor down.